Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 213th installment in the Torah portion of the week. We are holding by Parshas Ki Sisa, or Ki Sisa, depending how you want to pronounce it. First of all, it speaks about the half shekel, right? The Machatzita shekel talks about the census, the laver, the anointment oil, incense. It speaks about the sin of the golden calf. It speaks quite a bit about that. It speaks about Shabbos. So the Torah tells me, chapter 34, verse 9, the Torah tells me that God said over here that, or really that Moshe said, that if I found favor in your eyes, my Lord, let my Lord go among us, for it is a stiff-necked people, and you shall forgive our iniquity and error, and make us your heritage. Right? So basically, Moshe Rabbeinu over here is saying that for God to dwell amongst to dwell amongst the Jewish people, right? What is he telling him? What's the crux of the issue? Why God should come among the Jewish people? Because we're stiff-necked. Essentially, we're stubborn. And you should forgive our iniquity, forgive our sin. Right? That God should forgive the sin of the golden calf. So the question is going to be, what's the connection? What is the connection that God is going to forgive us because of the fact we are a stiff-necked people? Comes along, Moiv Rebbe, Arava Agon, Ramosh Shlita, should be well. Brings down in Chochmah V'das, it's commentary on Chumash, and he asks this question, right? He asks the question, the fact that Jewish people are stiff-necked people, so therefore God should dwell amongst us. So he says, what's the connection? Who cares the fact that we're stiff-necked people, that God should want to dwell amongst us? Right? Seemingly doesn't make any sense. So he explains like this. He says, for the Jewish people to fulfill their obligation, what God wants, He gave us a book. He told us what He wants. He told us how we should serve Him. How's the person supposed to keep Torah and mitzvahs? He says, it has to be kept with unbelievable Mesiras Nefesh. What is Mesiras Nefesh? Mesiras Nefesh means steadfastness. That a person is going to literally, do whatever it takes to keep the Torah. Self-determination. It's really not, I don't know if it's self-determination, right? But a person's going to have to give up a lot in order to keep Torah. Because the Jewish people, as we know, been in exile. Right? We've been in exile for a long time. We've suffered. We've gone through unbelievable suffering. And only the fact that we're stiff-necked are the Jewish people able to keep God's word. Right? It's an interesting thing. The strength of the Jewish people about being stubborn. Tremendous self-sacrifice. Right? That's really what Mesiras Nefesh was, or is. Right? Self-sacrifice. And the Jewish people have suffered, as we know, through exile, pogroms, Holocaust. Throughout the millennium, and the fact that the Jewish people stuck to Torah, the fact that Jewish people keep mitzvahs, and they'll do whatever it takes, no matter what God throws at us, then the Jewish people can survive. Because any other nation that's gone through this disappeared. So this is extremely important. The self-sacrifice that the Jewish people need in order that God's going to dwell amongst us. And he said, this is Moshe Rabbeinu's claim in front of God. What's his claim? He says, 100% we sinned. The Jewish people didn't do what they were supposed to do. Not only they didn't do what they were supposed to do, but essentially they committed idolatry. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was a little bit late, coming down from the mountain, and the fact that they made a mistake in the calculation, Mr. S, the Satan, the angel of death, whatever you want to call him, the evil inclination, shows the picture in heaven of Moshe Rabbeinu being dead. Right? It boggles the mind how they can make such a mistake. They really think this golden calf, even though it speaks, it eats, but this golden calf took them out of Egypt. Very hard to imagine. I watched my video, my YouTube channel, about the sin of the golden calf. Very hard to understand. You have to understand as well, Jewish people got the Torah. They were at Mount Sinai. And by the first two of the 10 Commandments, they heard God speak, they died, came back to life for all of the 10 Commandments. And all the miracles that they saw boggles the mind how they could sin. But that's not the topic for now. So what does Moshe Rabbeinu claim? Moshe Rabbeinu says, you're right, 100% we sinned. But he says, don't leave us. Don't abandon us. Why shouldn't you abandon us? Because we're stubborn. We're stiff-necked. And therefore, we're very durable. We're very tough. And with all that, regardless what happens, we are going to keep Torah mitzvahs. Now, why is this character trait of self-sacrifice, why is that a determining factor that a person's going to keep Torah mitzvahs? Why is it that being stubborn, that all this self-sacrifice is going to help over here? We can be stubborn the other way. God forbid. I don't want to hear about Torah. I don't want mitzvahs. You can be stubborn in other ways that are negative. Right, but the Torah is telling you that this stubbornness is a major factor of why God's going to be among us. Because he says, even though on the other side, what can Jews do? Which we mentioned. They can throw off the yoke of heaven. They cannot keep Torah mitzvahs. They can be, quote unquote, that cardiac Jew. The Jew in the heart, but they don't do very much. Meaning they don't keep very many mitzvahs. But nonetheless, this self-sacrifice, this stubbornness, it makes it difficult for them to bend. It makes them difficult to be subservient to others. And comes along Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu says, and he asks from God that he should dwell among us. Because we're not going to exchange him. We're not going to throw him out, no matter what happens. So therefore, self-sacrifice means we're not going to change. Meaning, we'll be stubborn to the extent that, yes, we can be gassed, God forbid. We can be killed, murdered, butchered, exiled. And we're not going to turn God in over here. We're not going to turn away. We're not going to look elsewhere. We'll take the suffering. We'll take the exile. But it's not like, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to leave God. Nope, sorry. We're going to take JC. Sorry, we're going to take the short little fat guy, Mr. Buddha himself. Or maybe we'll go to Islam. Maybe we'll be Hindus. Now, even though there are many Jews, unfortunately, who are Christians. Many Jews. Or if they're not Christians, they're practicing a different religion. But the rest are basically assimilated out. Right? The vast majority have given up Torah mitzvahs because of desire. Not about ideology. Ideology is out the window. It's about desire. So even though you got 13 million people, 13 million Jews, don't know anything about their religion, pretty much. So the mind-boggling thing is, they're not doing very much Torah mitzvahs, but they're not doing much of anything spiritually. Yes, there are lots that are practicing a different religion. The vast majority, they might have abandoned Torah mitzvahs. That doesn't mean they abandoned God. Right, as my Rebbe here says, regardless of what God is going to do to us, we're not exchanging it. We're not exchanging it for any imitation, or bad imitation, or cheap imitation. They may choose not to keep it, but it's not out of ideology. It's not out of the ideology, God, we're going to go somewhere else. We're going to take on someone else, going to be nice to us. Going to allow us to sip pina coladas and not give us a headache. Why aren't you learning? Why are you wasting your time? There are a lot of places a person could go. Seemingly, it's a lot easier to keep. And the repercussion's not as strong. A person can be a Christian in theory. All you have to do is believe in JC. You're good. You don't really have any mitzvahs to do. But the vast majority of Jews are not Christian. And really the Christian prey on the people who don't know very much, need money, need help. But we're not exchanging God over here. Maybe you tell me some people exchange God for money, sports, entertainment, other things. That's just based on desire. It's not based on anything ideologically that makes sense, that takes God out of the picture. They're not saying, I don't believe God took us out of Egypt. They're not saying, I don't believe, God exists. There are atheists, I'm not saying not. Or there are people who say, where is God when there's evil? What about the Holocaust? Young kids suffer, whatever. There are people that will say that, but they're blocks. They're not real issues. It's an excuse to do whatever I want to do. Oh, see, if God is really just and God is really good, why do people suffer? Why do evil people have it easy? It's a good question. It's a legitimate question. Read the book of Job. Right? Discuss it over there. Right? But most people just ask the question. They're not interested in the answer. They don't care about the answer. They want to justify what they're doing. So this is a tremendous thing over here. Meaning, yeah, we're losing tens of thousands, millions of Jews that don't know anything. But the vast majority is not based on ideology. It's based on desire. It's based on justifying whatever they do. But it's not based on the fact we're going somewhere else. We're going to take on a whole new ideology. Again, the ideology they're taking on is Hefkeris. Hefkeris means that things are ownerless. They're doing whatever they want because they don't want to get bogged down in religion. They don't want anyone telling them what to do. Yeah, there will be questions, legitimate questions, about suffering, science, maybe the age of the universe, evolution. But how many people really want to hear the answer? How many people really striving for truth among Jews? Not very many. Not very many. So most people, they want fantasy. They don't want to struggle. With all this. They don't have all their thoughts analyzed all the time. And why you're not doing this. And why you're not doing that. Why you're not reaching potential. All doom and gloom. Even the fun parts of Judaism, they'll do a little bit. They just want to be left alone. They just want to do whatever they do. It has nothing to do with belief. Belief is out the window. So in this sense, it's comforting. It's comforting in the sense that, yeah, even though a lot of people gone astray, even though a lot of people intermarried, and they don't know anything about Judaism, that's all true. But they're not saying, I want a different God. Some will. The overwhelming majority, they don't want anything. They don't want to be tied down. They don't want to be told what to do. They want to be free. Right? Isn't that what the song, Israeli national anthem, Atikva? They want to be an Am Chovshi, a free nation. What does that free nation mean? Like any other free nation. Nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with God. English, they have their own free nation. Italy, same thing. Jews, Israel. But how can you say that without Torah? It's like a body without a soul. Right? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. But they're not exchanging the ideology. That was years ago. That was years ago. And they were misled. Communism, socialism, democracy. But it's not all about that today. People don't have these issues. Most people are not thinking. Right? 1% think. 4% think they think. 95% rather die than think. They want to do what they want to do. Doing what you want to do is not an ideology. It's called passing the buck. They don't want to be tied down, as we mentioned. So essentially, this character trait is going to keep somebody on the straight and narrow path. They may eventually come back. But in order to keep Torah and mitzvahs, even when it's very hard, meaning even when they're suffering, even when there's exile, if a person's not attached to Torah and mitzvahs, it goes by the wayside. Right? There has to be tremendous self-sacrifice. Because if not, who's ever going to want to keep it? Because we live in a very godless world. You know, people will make fun, people will say things. And they may even convince us to go astray, God forbid. But if a person is steadfast, if a person puts in a lot of self-sacrifice, we're not going to be swayed. We'll be able to pass that down. We'll be able to pass it down to the next generation. I mean, it has to be done with great love, with great joy. Kids can't see the fact that, oh, it's too hard. Look how hard it is. Right? It's so hard to be a Jew. They're not going to care. It's so hard to be a Jew. Why bother? Anti-Semitism, this, discrimination. Why should I bother keeping anything? Because you got to be attached to Torah. You got to be attached to God. If you're not attached to Torah and mitzvahs and you're not willing to put in the self-sacrifice, it's gone. A person will give it up at drop of a hat. And Torah absolutely is worth fighting for. Because it's our lifeline. It's not based on Zionism, on a state of Jews. Right? It's based on the fact that God gave the Torah to the Jewish people. The land of Israel is the holiest place in the world because that's where God's presence was. But there was a condition. What was the condition? The condition is that you're going to deserve the land of Israel because I chose you, you chose me. But going into the land of Israel, what's it all about? It's about keeping Torah mitzvahs. It's not about just land. It's not about just waving the flag. Again, without Torah, without mitzvahs, right? So then it's like a body without a soul. That's what it is. And most secular Jews are exactly like that. They're a body without a soul. The soul is there, but it takes a lot to, get it out. To get the spirituality out. So even if we look at statistics, right, how many Jews either unaffiliated, how many Jews intermarried, how many Jews being wiped off the face of the map spiritually, all true. So what's the saving grace? What's the saving grace over here? The saving grace is that we're stubborn. In that it's entrenched in our hearts. It's so entrenched in our hearts that most Jews are not going to go astray to another religion. They may do nothing, but they're not going to falsehood. Some will. The vast majority won't. And that's because it's been ingrained. It's been ingrained in our hearts. Right? From Mount Sinai. It's been ingrained. Keeping the mitzvahs. Doing whatever it takes. Not resting on our laurels. And for some people, that doesn't sound so appealing. And the reason it doesn't is because they've never been taught. And they don't know. They don't know the sweetness of Torah. They don't know what it means. They only see, quote unquote, these antiquated laws and how they don't have any relevance in my life. Well, they never really thought about it. Never really looked into it. Why not? It's exactly what we said. They're not interested because they want to sip pina coladas without a conscience. They want to enjoy. They want to do whatever they do. They don't want to be held accountable for anything spiritually. And you can't tell me otherwise. That's what they'll say. But see, there's a benefit to that. There's a silver lining. The silver lining is, but they're not going elsewhere. So essentially, if they're not going elsewhere, there's good enough chance they eventually may come around. Because they're not willing to bend. That far they're not willing to go. And that's a good thing. Now, whether it leads them to Torah mitzvahs in the end or not, nobody knows. Some it will, some it won't. Maybe a lot won't. But they have the ability. They have the ability because it's entrenched in them. It's entrenched in the soul. But without the self-sacrifice, then we're still with putty in the hands of the evil inclination. Nothing really means anything. There's no accountability. Person can intermarry. And everything's good. Except it goes against what God wants. So the point here is that for God to dwell amongst the Jewish people, we needed that characteristic of self-sacrifice. Willing to do whatever it takes. Regardless of what God throws at us. And we see the people who do that and are willing to do that, then they should have all the success in the world. Pass it on to their kids, their grandkids, and throughout the generations. So I want to remind everyone I give a class on duties of the heart every Tuesday, 9 o'clock New York time. I have 2 Q&As every Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock in the morning New York time, 5 o'clock Israel time. I have a class on Book of Leviticus, chapter 14, Sunday, 9 o'clock New York time, 4 o'clock Israel time. I do Tanakh Talk every Monday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time, controversial issues. Perkei Avos every Saturday, 2 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Israel time, on ethics of our fathers. I also have conversion classes. Anyone interested in any of this can find me on Facebook, Beyond Orthodox Conversion and Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com, RABBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com.